Okay, now we're going to take a look at creating procedural animations. And we can actually do this with volumetrics, which is very neat. And we can create some clouds and smoke out of this and actually adjust the speed of it. So I'm going to load in just a sphere right here and apply a volumetric material to it. So I'll select volumetric materials and I'm going to select the shaded white smoke and click OK. So now we can see that we have just this basic sphere right now with the smoke object on it. If you're actually going to be doing clouds or smoke, I suggest using a different shaped object than just a sphere, maybe even creating a metablob object of spheres, and that way you can get a different looking metablob sort of cloud. So let's take a look at actually animating it. I'm going to double click on our material here to bring up our advanced material editor. You can see that it's volumetric material being controlled by a density production filter. So I'm going to, or a function. So I'm going to right mouse click and go to edit function. I'm going to drag up our function editor here so we can see it all the way and select this basic repeater node that we've got on here. And what I'm also going to do is so that we can see this all the way is I'm just going to zoom out on our function so that we can bring up this bottom panel here. And what we want to do is go to edit and select animated and click OK. And as you can see, that drew a line to time here. So now we have this link between time and our function. And I'm going to click OK and click OK again. And now this is going to be animated. We can already see that sort of updated a little. We're going to display timeline. And as we drag through our timeline, we can watch in the preview here of how quickly these clouds are changing. And actually see that they're sort of moving in and out, getting larger and expanding, moving out of the way. And it's a pretty neat little effect we have here. And we can just animate specifically right now clouds and smoke by editing these different parameters in the material editor. But we can also animate a number of other surfaces this way. We can animate terrains and actually have some editing there, especially if we want one surface rolling over another surface. We could do that and animate specific parts of the fractals, and it gives a pretty neat effect. But we're taking a look at it specifically right now at the cloud and smoke options of this and animating those. So now I'm going to show you how we can change the speed of this animation. And one thing we need to do is go back to that function for this material, and then we can either slow down or speed up the rate of change within the surface. And this works on any surface, but specifically right now it's for the clouds. So I'm going to double click on our advanced material editor, and then go to density production, right mouse click, and go to edit function. When this comes up, we're going to select our timeline, the link we have between our function and our time, or our fractal node that we have right here. Select this line, and we're going to add a math node. And right now it asks if we want it to be animated, and I'm going to select no, because I'm not on frame 0. And actually, when I get out of this function editor, I'm going to go back and change this to frame 0 so we don't have any major changes. But I'm going to select this math node we just added in here and change it to power. And by changing this to power, and now I'm going to add a constant node, which is this little k over here. And we want to make sure this is set to constant number. We're going to select our math node, link it to this constant node. And when we select the constant node, we can change this to whatever number we want, and it will actually affect the rate of speed of our animation. So I'm going to up this to 25 and click OK, and OK again. And as I move through the frames, we can see the rate of change of the animation of the clouds and see that they're moving slower than they were before. And what we can do is edit the length of how long the clouds are moving, and then even just do a preview animation so we can watch on the bottom how quickly the clouds are moving. So that's a pretty neat little thing we can do. But before we can do a preview animation of this, we'd have to set a keyframe. So what I'm going to do is set this to 5, move up our shape just a little, just so it's being moved, and that's going to add a key to that. And we can go to Animation, and then Render Animation Preview. And on the bottom, it will show us the animation rendering, and then we can watch it when we're done and see the rate of change of the clouds. So I'm just going to cancel this right now. And we can also use a couple of other things to edit that animated timeline other than a constant node. So we can go back into the function editor and take a look at that. And now another way is to select our time here and delete the math node that we had on it. And then we're going to go and select filter. We're going to add a filter node to it. We want to make sure that power is selected. And by editing these numbers, mostly on the top, the exponent, we can actually change the rate of time within the animation, how quickly and slowly that fractal node is moving, and we can control it with this filter node. We can also set this to a constant so that we can adjust the value just by selecting the constant node. So it's a kind of neat little thing you can do. Instead of using the math node, we can use a filter node, and it produces an entirely different type of effect. So you should go through and try out different types of nodes that control the power of the value of this animation on the time, and that way you can check and see how the animation is working out and how quickly it is changing over time. And then doing the little preview animations on the bottom help a lot as well, so that way you can actually watch it as the surface is changing instead of just dragging through the timeline and looking at the preview. And like I said before, this works with both clouds and smoke, so I can either change the value of this material to make it a little bit different, and I can adjust the ambient. I'm going to select no on animated and just make them a little bit brighter so they're more like clouds instead of smoke right now. So now they're a little bit brighter. Like I said, we can make a Metablob object out of it. What we could also do is darken those up. Select no on animated again because I'm not on 0 frame. And upper diffusion or decrease our diffusion to make it a little bit darker. Click OK, and then we can have some more of a smoke type cloud. But like I said, this will work on any surface that is driven by a function, whether it's a noise node or a fractal node. So you can go in and animate a lot of those different effects and edit them and apply it to different surfaces and try it on water and try it on terrains, and you'll see that you can produce a variety of very neat effects for animated surfaces.